Welcome to another exciting edition of the Million Dollar Peddlers. I'm Papergoy. And today we're going to talk about, of all things, snowballs. And I know how crazy that sounds. No, you probably don't want to sell those on eBay. They might be a little bit difficult to ship. And here we are in the middle of summer. It's about 90 degrees outside today, and I'm thinking about winter. One thing that I've begun doing, I did this about 2 to 3 years ago, and I'm really glad that I did it, is keeping track of things that I buy in a different manner. And what I have is I have a spreadsheet, and I've got a number of different places that I source from, basically. So I might have flea markets, I might have estate sales, I might have house calls, church sales, auctions, etc., etc., etc. All the various places that I source from. A couple of people that I regularly source from have their own tabs as well. I've got some tabs for one-off large deals that I did, and then I've got like a miscellaneous tab. And what I do is I'll go to the flea market and I'll spend $50 at the flea market. And it doesn't really make a difference which flea market, when it was, because I'm kind of just looking at it as a sourcing opportunity, and that's flea markets in general. I mean, there are 2 or 3 that I go to, but any flea market that I go to would get the flea market tab. And so I spend $50 at the flea market, and then when I go and I list the items, I use the SKU line on eBay or the SKU line on Amazon, as the case happens to be, and I'll note what box number it's in, and then I'll put a little code in there, FM 2020, Flea Market 2020. And I will then keep track on the spreadsheet, and I'll say, okay, I spent $50 at the flea market. I bought 50 items, 25 of which got listed on eBay, 25 of which got listed on Amazon. And I'll do it, that was a purchase on September 1st. And then September 8th, there's another purchase, $40, and 20 items got listed here, 10 got listed here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This has helped me out in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that it's helped me is it's kind of let me take a look at what my per item cost is, which is something that I never really paid a lot of attention to before. But it's a good thing to know. So that way when you're out somewhere and you see something, you kind of in the back of your head actually have numbers to go by as to what you generally pay for stuff. Not that you don't want to deal with every deal on its own. In other words, obviously, I usually pay $1 an item, and you've got Golden Age comic books. Yes, I'm going to pay more than $1 an item. I know that. But if you've got the common run-of-the-mill stuff that I see out there, I kind of know in the back of my head, based off of these numbers, what it is that I can pay for it. And when you come in with a price that's above that, granted, I weigh it up on its own merits, but then I wouldn't purchase it if your price is more than what I usually pay for it, but by any substantial amount whatsoever. Even if I look in and I go, I'm not really sure, well, that kind of tips it over. Or the other way, geez, I usually pay more than this at a flea market. This is a lot of merchandise. This is a decent price. So it kind of lets you look at your per unit cost. But the other thing that it allows me to do is track how successful the venue happens to be. And so then when I sell that item out of, eBay box 14, flea market 2020, it sells for $15. I note that down. And so at any point in time, I can look at it and I can say, okay, I spent $850 at the flea market. I purchased 700 items. Great. Let me see how my sales are. Oh, wow, I've sold $2,200 worth of things, and I've only sold 75 items in order to get there. Hey, I'm paying $1.50 an item, and I'm selling things for $25 an item, or whatever the case happens to be. So it really does help you actually have some numbers. And one of the reasons why is one thing that I thought were very, very good venues for me to purchase at were library sales. I said, I always go to a library sale. I always find things. Then when I actually sat down and looked at the numbers, I really don't make very much money, and I really don't buy very much at all at library sales. Now, granted, it's just because I had no success there last year doesn't mean I won't have success there this year, et cetera, et cetera. But if after a couple of years you keep looking and you say, geez, I'm not making a lot of money at all at library sales, if it's not out of your way, you still might go to one, but you're not going to go out of your way, an hour away to go to a library sale, because it turns out that's not a particularly profitable. One area that is very profitable for me is church sales. And So now I definitely take a look at church sales more than I did in the past. Granted, this year with the pandemic, there aren't very many of any kind of sales, but I've got some actual hard numbers to help me. Now you're all asking, what does this have to do with snowballs? I actually took a look the other day at one specific area that I purchased from. And I went and I purchased I spent $51 for 37 items from this venue. That very same day, I sold $55 worth of items from a previous purchase from this venue. That was for 2 items. I got $55 back. And I looked at them and I had spent $3 on them. So essentially what I have done or had done in that day, leave out fees, all that sort of thing, because it's not perfect, but I sold 2 items and turned those 2 items into 37 items is more or less what I did. Yes, I have some time invested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I turned 2 items into 37 items. Those 37 items are going to come in and they're going to get listed. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back to this venue again in order to purchase items. And, I've got $1.50 each into these items roughly that I just purchased. And I'm going to sell 3 of them for $60. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back to this venue and I'm going to buy 35 items for $55 or something like that. And then I wind up where that original $3 turned into 37 items, which then turns into another 40 items plus the 35 remaining. You end up with 75 items for your initial $3 investment. And that's just off of one venue on a couple of times going to it. As time goes on, as years go by, you end up with your initial $10 investment. You're out of it and you've got 1,000 items, 2,000 items, whatever number of items left over that you really only have your original $10 into because you've been turning the money over and building your business up. And that's what I mean by a snowball. It definitely snowballs. I've got any number of items that have not sold yet from this venue but are listed, and they will sell because, I've been doing this long enough that I generally know what I'm purchasing, and they will sell. And so on and so on and so on. And the more venues that you can purchase things from and do this with, the more money you're going to make. It's kind of the flip side of the people that are out there, and they are correct. The people that are out there to tell you get multiple streams of income. List on eBay, list on Amazon, list on Etsy, list on PopPsych, list or not Discogs, or list here, list there. They are right. The more areas that you can sell at, the more money you can make. But kind of flip it on its head, and the more areas you can buy from, the more revenue streams you have coming in. Even though you're only getting the money out of a couple of different sites, it's still more areas that you have money coming in, and the ones that you're making good money on, you continue to do, and those such as library sales that aren't nearly as good as I thought they were, you cut back on or cut out altogether. So hopefully that helps you some. And again, it's just kind of flipping the whole idea on its head. Of multiple streams, but I'm talking about multiple streams of sourcing, and that will snowball for you as well. Thank you very much, and see you next video.